This is a movie review. It's called Light Sleeper, released in 1992. It's directed by Paul Schrader, who's also responsible for the script. And there's some impressive actors in this cast. I'll go through a few of them. The lead role is John Latour, played by Willum Dafoe. Susan Sarendon plays Anne. Diane Delaney is Marianne Jost. And David Clerman plays Robert. Going down the rest of them, none of them make much impact on me, but the leads are certainly talented actors, and Schrader, of course, responsible for Taxi Driver. So what's this about? Well, it's about drugs, basically. It's about the hero John Latour. It's a bit of a lonely film. He delivers drugs to clients in Manhattan. He works for a dealer named Anne, who runs her operation as a business but dreams of getting into another one. Maybe she'll start a cosmetics firm. It's the daydream of anyone who's being paid too much to do something that no longer matters to them. They'll quit one day and do what they really want to do, but somehow they can never afford that. Maybe a catastrophe would be a blessing in disguise. Schrader knows this world of insomnia, craving and addiction. Look no further than this is the third in his trilogy about alienated night workers, after Taxi Driver and American Gigolo, another good film with Richard Gere. And so this might well be worth checking out. There are many parallels in the three films. They all involve men in misguided efforts to save or connect with a self-destructive woman, and they all end in violence. But perhaps he is growing older and wiser, Schrader. The characters over the years have become better people. The zombie craziness in Travis Bickle in Taxi Drivers mellowed into a certain gentle resignation in Dafoe's gifted portrait of John Latour in Light Sleeper. He's been off drugs for a couple of years. He still drinks and never really got involved in going to meetings. He does his job for money, and he has clients who worry him, including one completely strung out guy who was holed up in an apartment with booze and drugs and is going off the deep end. His last trip to the guy's house, where he brutally tells him he's hit bottom and kicks the guy back down to the floor while making a call to turn him in, is a scene of perfect insight into the world of addiction. Sounds pretty impressive. That's part of a review written by the renowned film critic Robert Ebert. First few minutes, and it's got a Schrader style. It starts out with Dafoe in his car driving at night to meet a customer outside a 24-hour store, and then after he gets the cash, he goes to his supplier. This is Sarendon, and just watching Sarendon a little later when she announces to Dafoe and her other partner maybe that she's secured a big sort of amount of dope that's arrived in New York. But she's such a good actress. She really is. She sort of delivers her words very quickly, but she's such a natural, you know. And Dafoe, I've always liked him. He's a very quiet under time sort of person. What's the word I'm looking for? Not particularly sort of present and loud, but very undercurrent of assuredness. And the two men discuss the possibility that Anne is deciding to throw it all in and go into cosmetics. But as mentioned earlier, she's been there before. It's one of her New Year resolutions. But I'm not quite following it yet, but when you've got Dafoe and Sarendon at the top of your cast, you know that even if the script is a little bit loose, it'd be interesting to see from Schrader how this one maps out, but you know that they're going to deliver 5-star stuff. Light Sleeper, never heard of it before. Great scene where Dafoe is selling to Eddie, I think he said, a gram of coke, and this is the scene where the guy is just going off the deep end, but it's a very slick scene, and Dafoe, he's an astute sort of supplier, but he don't take no shit, but he doesn't get uptight either, even when Eddie suggests he might telephone the cops if he doesn't get exactly what he wants, but eventually he does compromise. Dafoe's character is a narrator, and he chips in whilst we're listening to this guy who's high on crack cocaine about the notion that everybody wants to talk when they're high, and his belief is that if you've got nothing to say, then keep your mouth shut. It's one point that I read in the review by Roger eBay was the fact that the central characters in this film are all sort of into middle age. They've survived early on their drug spree, but they've now made it far more difficult to leave, because those early years when you're at work and you can map out a future if you make various decisions. For example, if you're in a profession, you can see a possible route through promotion, etc., etc. Whereas in this business, the only way out is to completely move into something different and risk losing that regular income in trying to start fresh again, or by dying through excessive use. And it's a very apt point. I did a review of another film, The Naked Kiss, some while back, and this focused on prostitution there, and how that stain on one's character moves with you even when you want to move out and into something radically different. And in many ways this is similar. You're if you're a druggie, you're always a druggie. That's why it's so difficult actually to beat it, to beat addiction. It's easier to just succumb, and I know of that from my alcohol and tobacco fight. So it's a good little film, this. I must stay with it. It appears that he's actually got a driver, I guess it's a taxi. We see him again sweeping through New York, and he spots this girl on the sidewalk. This scene is really fantastic. It's pouring with rain. He spots this old girlfriend. They did dope together, and she gets in and she's panicking almost immediately. She assumes that he's still using. She says that she's off it now 4 years, and he eventually tells her that he is as well. But then she suggests that he's dealing. He lies, and then he gets a beeper, which is a call from a customer, she's desperate to get out of the car, but this little 5-minute scene is a tremendous highlight so far, as pointed out by Air Bear. Great minds, huh? The ex escapes from the taxi, and John, Dafoe's character, retreats to his flat, and with the help of a drink, not excessive in that department, he escapes into photographs, and we next see him at a psychic. He's trying to find a way forward. He's stuck in this cycle of buying and selling dope and caught up in the whole 9 yards of the business, and he's wondering if he can get some sort of either salvation or inspiration by going. Lots of great scenes in this movie, which at Anne's place, John arrives, and shortly after there's a phone call. A regular customer requires urgently some dope, but he's at the hospital and it's urgent, so John duly goes over and finds out that he struck up with a girl who OD'd, and she's in the hospital, and the police are arriving shortly, and he started to lose it. So in the waiting room, a deal's struck. Some tablets are passed over. I guess they might be amphetamine or something, and money exchanged. It's all very sort of routine, like, you know, buying candy. But it's another impressive little scene. Dafoe's such a good actor. Whilst at the hospital, John runs into Marianne again and her sister Randy, and Marianne is very, very cool with him. Randy, alternatively, is really excited to meet him. But once again, it's a reminder of your past. You never escape your past. And even though John is sober and much more together and everything, Marianne won't let it go. They're there because their mother's died of cancer. They retreat to the hospital cafeteria, and we get a blow-by-blow account of their relationship, the separate perceptions. They're sitting opposite each other, and it's like a boxing match. He's trying to paint a picture that there was a lot of good times, and she's responding by knocking them all down. It's a wonderful scene. I'm getting to really like this movie. Both actors are absolutely excellent. John keeps a notebook of all the transactions. He's very efficient like that. The soundtrack's quite moody and moving as well. Don't know who it is, but it's sort of night music with a sax percolating through. John and Anne meet for lunch. It's another excellent scene. They're two people who are sort of going through a period in their life where they know that they need to make a radical change, and they're both anxious about it, maybe even fearful, and they have had a number of years as close friends. Not sure whether they've actually been romantically involved, but they certainly are there for each other, and Anne particularly needs that reassurance that she's planning to move on to cosmetics and out of dope. John, nevertheless, is sort of has no plan really. He just jumps from one crazy idea to another, and then realises they're all of little substance. But it's a very, very good scene again. John goes back to the hospital, and he's sitting in the room with Marianne's mother, and then she arrives, and then they leave and go to her room and have sex, and then when that's finished, she then leaves and tells him that this is the final act, the end. It's dramatic, albeit civilized. She reflects on how much it was so enjoyable, but that's it. She's drawing a line. John's late for work, but he gets back on track, sidetracked by Marianne. Then when he gets back to his flat, he's trying to track her down. He's in love with her. He wants to start afresh, but he's probably going to have to let her go. It's a much better film than I thought it was going to be. This John gets shaken down by a homicide detective investigating a young girl's death who had some coke on her. He's keeping an eye on John. He shakes him down quite a bit and basically says, if you want me off your back, you better find out some info to steer me away from you. It's a rather shattering event for John, who thought he was being cool confronting the guy at a laundromat. So, scene after scene here. John goes to the funeral parlour, and the girl goes absolutely apeshit. He then gets back to work, and she goes to see Eddie, and Eddie's completely off the charts, and John's not really feeling very friendly, but he does contact his brother at the same time as giving Eddie a whack, which knocks him out. But it's all very, very messy, and that's the type of job. Customers that take too much get strung out, get aggressive, get emotional, get dangerous even. Tor goes to service one of his richer clients in a penthouse in a hotel, and he's completely struck down when he sees this young girl sort of stagger out of her room. It's Marianne. She's back on the dope after the death of her mother, and of course meeting up with John. Wow. Clearly shocked, he leaves the apartment in the hotel, the penthouse, returns to his car, and as he's about to get in it, he hears a scream. A woman has jumped off second floor, third floor of the hotel. He slowly trudges back, fearing the worst. We don't see, but we can guess. She's committed suicide. Following the death of the girl, John starts to feel a little bit paranoid, so he goes underground and acquires a gun. He's pretty convinced that she was pushed out of the window. His love of his life even though it was reported as a suicide. So he passes that info on to the cop who roughed him up earlier, and now he's got a gun. $400 30 years ago. I wanted to comment that Dafoe has been in every frame of this film. Very much a commanding performance.